just having some fun at this point. Like, this thumbnail, this title, it's kind of ridiculous, but you know what? I thought this was an important conversation to have, because when it comes to one of the, do I say it? Biggest mistakes that Marc Bergevin did before leaving the Montreal Canadiens, we're talking today about a guy who is holding himself accountable. Not in terms of his actions, so far, at least, but in terms of his words. Because during the Montreal Canadiens' exit interviews for the 2023-2024 NHL season, we had ourselves a comment or two, or maybe 7, made by Montreal Canadiens forward Josh Anderson. Now, when it comes to Anderson, everybody kind of knows what's going on here. He was a big, highly coveted player by Marc Bergevin and the Canadiens, and they traded away then prized forward Max Domi to get him all the way back in 2020. It's kind of unbelievable now to think about how, that was 4 years ago when Josh Anderson was acquired by the Habs. But Anderson was a player who, during his time in Columbus, had a 47-point year in 82 games played. 27 goals, 20 assists. He was a big dude, power forward-like sniper who could just drive to the net and make some really nice shots. Marc Bergevin wanted to capitalize on a guy in Anderson who had himself a very bad neck season. He only had 4 points in 26 games the year after, had to get a surgery, was out for a while. And believing that Josh Anderson had more of that 47-point, 27-goal potential in his repertoire, acquired Anderson and signed him to a $5.5 million AAV contract extension, which goes on till 2027. Now, there was a conversation about whether or not this was the right move, and you had to talk about the guy going back because Max Domi also needed a contract, and he wasn't really doing all too well, and this and that and the other thing. So the Montreal Canadiens got their guy in Anderson, and he had himself a fairly okay career with the team. 32 points in 69 games played in back-to-back years, plus a 20-goal season in 22-23. But this year, Josh Anderson went from a 20-goal, 30-point guy in 69 games played to 20 points in 78 games played, 9 goals, 11 assists. So a pretty steep decline in goal production. He had the same amount of assists in more games played. And honestly, even just with the Anderson seasons we have had in the past, it's easy to see that Josh Anderson hasn't really been like the best playmaker, quote unquote. Like, sure, he had a 20 assist season in 2018-19, but the fact is, Anderson has always scored way more goals than assists. He is a lot more of just a straightforward power forward who will drive to the net, make some plays, and not really do a good job at setting them up for his teammates. He's just a really hard-nosed winger. This season, though, for $5.5 million a year, his overall point production was disappointing. And not only to Montreal Canadiens fans has this been the case, because it turns out Josh Anderson himself is very upset with the way that he played. He called himself out. And I'll leave a link in the description to this article published by Benoit Rioux from 3 days ago during the In the Locker Room press conference post-season. "I've been terrible this year," Josh Anderson says. Now, article is in French, I translated it to English via the Google machine. Let's take a look at what Anderson has to say about his season in 23-24. Forward Josh Anderson was undoubtedly the most emotional player on Wednesday in the Canadian locker room when taking stock. "I was terrible this season," Anderson finally said, in a heartfelt cry when there were only a handful of journalists left around him. Limited to 20 points in 78 games played, the Ontario forward admitted that he was dreading Wednesday. Anderson, however, stood at his locker and answered numerous questions. So right away, it's good to see that at least there is accountability taken here. We recognize that the Canadiens have had pretty notable and good personalities in the locker room. So Anderson, all on-ice conversations aside, the fact that he's able to go out there and talk about his season in this way, it's a pretty good thing. It's difficult to talk about the problems experienced on the ice when it's your job, but you have to do it. I presented myself here today on Wednesday wanting to be as honest as possible, Anderson said, indicated with a tremolo in his voice. "I have no excuses for the way I played this year," summarized a 29-year-old athlete. "It's been a very disappointing year for me." And yeah, disappointing compared to last year, sure. Disappointing compared to the expectations, sure. Disappointing compared to what a $5.5 million 29-year-old player should probably be able to bring. Yeah, I'm not going to go out there and disagree. Let's see what else Anderson says. Anderson was sad, disappointed, and frustrated, feelings shared by many fans who like to point out that he eats $5.5 million annually from the team's payroll. There is a lot of frustration, he said. I'm going to take a step back in the next few weeks, and I want to come back being the player that I'm capable of being. I still believe that I'm still young in this league, and I have the skills required to be a good player. I really think the best thing for me will be to be away from hockey for a few weeks and spend time with my family and friends, he insisted. Then I'll be back in the gym and on the ice to work. To be honest, I don't really think that's all too revolutionary. Like, of course, I'm just a random guy sitting in my computer chair talking about these guys on a YouTube video. I'm not really in a position to talk, but these ideas, could be good enough. Just get away from the sport a little bit, spend some time with your folks, get back in the gym, and focus on what it is that you need to get better. But at the same time, this is some pretty basic cookie-cutter stuff. Now, that's not to discredit the cookie-cutter stuff. It's cookie-cutter for a reason. It's usually because it works. But at the end of the day, for Josh Anderson, let's hope that this entire season and whatever he does in the offseason will help him become better for next year. I'm not dunking on the guy here because he's terrible. I'm dunking on him because he's making $5.5 million a year and he called himself out. If he's better on the ice, it's better for everybody involved. It's better to be better, right? Anderson also said that he did not consult a sports psychologist during last season, but he appreciated the support of head coach Martin St. Louis. I have a lot of respect for Marty as head coach, he said, welcoming the extended agreement between St. Louis and the Canadiens. Despite my troubles throughout the season, he stayed by my side and encouraged me. It means a lot to me. And that is also why Marty St. Louis is a great player to coach this team. Not only does he take the young guys and he gives them the confidence to get better and become stronger hockey players compared to what they were yesterday, but he also takes the older, aging veteran guys that are a little bit on the down curve and helps them stabilize themselves mentally, which is great. Hopefully that mental peace is able to transfer onto the ice in more productive ways. This article on TVA Sports finishes off by talking about how he enjoyed the reaction of the Bell Center towards him on December 16th after a 5-3 win over the Islanders when he scored 2 goals. Anderson obtained the first star of the match and received a huge ovation. It's probably a game that I'll remember for the rest of my life, he said. The fans have been so good to me. Montreal has a special place in my heart and I continue to love this city without a doubt. I'm committed to my teammates, to the organization, but also to the fans to come back, to produce, and to have a better season. At the end of the day, Montreal fans are Montreal fans, and they... Do I say we? I don't know, I've never been to the Bell Center, so I guess I can't really say I, but Montreal Canadiens fans cheer for whomever it is on the Canadiens that's doing well. Especially if you've got a cap hit that justifies your ability to be doing well, then it's easy to fall in love with you. But Canadiens fans, for all the good that we did see out of Josh Anderson in the playoff run when they went to the finals, when they initially acquired him, the hype after he was traded for Max Domi and signed that extension, there was always going to be a certain level of forced love there. But Canadiens fans, I feel, generally did acknowledge that Anderson has talent. It's why this entire conversation about him this season was so frustrating, because he wasn't producing, he wasn't scoring, he was just giving up pucks, not really forcing plays to go the right way. He'd come down the wing, shoot it off the side of the net, and wouldn't really be there to recover, and play would go back the other way. Like, there were so many dead plays and not too many productive moments compared to before that frustration started to build, because it's like, yeah, we know you're better than this. We know you can be a better hockey player, a smarter hockey player, a more cohesive unit of an offensive package compared to just rifling down the boards and shooting the puck low on a goaltender. He makes the save and plays it back the opposite way. That was Josh Anderson's only move this season, it feels like. So Josh getting the monkey off of his back, scoring the first goal he had in a long time, getting the standing ovation in the 2-goal game, eventually finishing off the year with some of the worst numbers he's had in years. Hopefully this is all a wake-up call for a much better and improved Josh Anderson for next year. But for now, we are making this video because he kind of called himself out. He calls himself terrible. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Josh Anderson and his performance in the 23-24 season. My goodness, I'm stuck in the past, eh? Last night in Soho? What the hell? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section about Josh Anderson and what you think his progression is going to look like for next season. How well do you think he'll produce in 24-25? I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.